The Cathedral Cervellia in Coimbra, a 12th century Romanesque church, and the view from our rented apartment here. We were perfectly situated in the historic town square. Finding this place, though, was stressful. The streets in these old towns are ridiculously narrow and still open to car traffic. Our GPS got us to what we considered a dead end, at a very small opening between the side of the cathedral and another building. This clearly wasn't our destination. I knocked on the cathedral door and was met by a man named Joel. He was so incredibly sweet. He took me around the square from business to business looking for the apartment and the owner. We finally found both. But now we apparently had to navigate through that gap into the square. I asked Joel how the heck we were supposed to fit. He replied, "Pray." Thanks to Renata Ryman's expert driving skills and Joel's guidance, she got through what for us will forever be called the gates of hell. Coimbra is a must-see. More excellent food, walking through our cathedral, exploring the main drag and old Moorish-era city gate, and meandering all the way across the Mondego River up the hill for vistas of the city. We also wandered the grounds of Coimbra's old and famous university. Esposende, which the Portuguese pronounce something like Esposende, is a small seaside town not far from the Spanish border. We met friends there and rented this house for a week. The first day trip from our base was to Porto, famous of course for its port wine production. Black-clad university students performing to raise money is a common sight on Portugal's city streets, and Porto's no different. We walked for miles, stopping for lunch, and crossing to the south side of the Douro River to the port houses for a tasting. Port grapes are grown in the Douro Valley, and until about 50 years ago, the wine used to be ferried down the Douro River on these boats, called barcas tabaneiras. Now it is driven to Porto. Once at the port cellars, it's fortified with brandy and aged. Now that we'd tasted some of the region's famous port, it was time to explore its source, the Douro Valley. Portugal doesn't seem to have a distinctive tourist wine trail system like you find in California or France. We eventually found one estate receiving visitors, Val Moreira. Superb wines and port, wonderful service by Fernando, and stunning views of the vineyards. Thursday is market day in Barcelos.
Tem coxinha e tem salsichinha. A coxinha frango e a salsichinha com queijo.
It's the largest in Portugal, and you can find everything from clothing and fresh produce to chainsaws and live poultry. Barcelos is also home to the rooster one sees on almost anything Portugal. Other places we explored were Viana do Castelo, a port town which holds an annual festival, the Pilgrimage of Diagonia. The most famous fadista or Fado singer, Amália Rodrigues, is honoured here. She was part of the festival's committee in 1998. Nazaré and its north beach Praia do Norte boast the world's biggest waves. This is how most people know Nazaré, but when we were there was hardly a swell in sight. Turns out the monster waves happen in winter. And in Ovar, we went on a lovely self-guided walking tour of historic tiled buildings. Our memorable visit to Portugal was sadly over. And now, a year later, in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, we passed this group practicing at one of our Brooklyn community gardens. And the music took us right back to Portugal. Until next time, happy rambling, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.